Hello, and welcome to Cheers to Fears, where we take horror films and turn them into drinking games. We're your two hosts. I'm Tucker.
And I'm Alex. Today we will be making a drinking game for Halloween 2, 2009, written and directed by Rob Zombie. After Rob Zombie directed the first Halloween remake, he said that he did not want to film a sequel. However, the last installment did exceptionally well in the box office, so he agreed to film a sequel, as long as he got the freedom to film in the way that he envisioned.
In this installment of Halloween, Laurie is traumatized by the events of the first movie, which happened a year ago. Laurie is now living with Annie and her father as she naively thinks that Michael Myers is still dead.
Meanwhile, Loomis is a celebrity by selling his book on Michael Myers and even thinks that Michael Myers is dead.
Let me make things nice and sparkling clear. Michael Myers is fucking dead. Now, do you brain-dead gossip mongers want me to spell that out for you? D-E-A-D!
But as we know, Michael Myers can be burned alive, shot multiple times, beaten to a pulp by Ant-Man, decapitated, and lit on fire by Busta Rhymes, so it is safe to assume that a point-blank shot to the head would not be enough to kill him either.
Okay, alright, sweetie.
I killed him.
It's okay.
I killed him.
At this point in the video, if you have not yet seen the movie, we will give you an opportunity to pause the video, look at our drinking rules, and come back once you are done. With that being said, we will be talking about spoilers, so without further ado, let's continue.
Kicking off the drinking game as always, if you see somebody die, you must take a sip. This installment of Halloween was pretty bloody this time around, as it had 18 deaths in total.
As for common horror movie drinking rules, we will always include our next rule, which is if you hear somebody scream, cry, or yell, you take a sip. We found people doing either one of these three things in the movie 29 times.
Now on to the drinking rules for every single Halloween movie we will make. Starting with, if you hear somebody say Halloween, you are enforced to take a sip.
I'm concerned, but gosh, I can't say that I'm surprised. I mean, it's Halloween, and Halloween is a big trigger point for you, isn't it?
This time around, we only stumbled across 5 instances where we were caught sipping on our drinks.
Rule number 4, which we are adding back to the list, is that if you see a pumpkin, you drink. It is a change of pace for this to not be one of the highest amount of drinks in the movie, considering it only gave us 23 sips, which is extremely low this time around.
Moving on to our 5th rule, if you see a slasher sin on screen, you take a sip. There is usually not a lot of slasher sins in Halloween movies, as this one only had 7, but this is more than we are accustomed to seeing.
Next up are a pair of rules about our protagonist, Michael Myers. The first of them is if you hear his first name, last name, or names said together, you take a sip. In Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, the names were said a total of 20 times.
What's wrong, Michael? It reminds me of something.
The second pair of rules involving Michael Myers is if you see him on screen, you take a sip. This rule we caught 19 times in action.
For this next rule, you must take a sip whenever you hear the Halloween theme song play. This is the least amount of times that it was heard in any of the Halloween movies, as it was only heard 1 time.
We now have 2 rules specifically for the movie. Let's start with one reoccurring from the previous movie. That rule states if you see nudity or anything talked about in a sexual manner that is not a slasher sin, you take a sip. Of course, most slasher movies will have these traits in it, as we can see it happened in this movie 14 times.
Our final rule today is if you see Michael Myers' dead mother, Deborah Myers, you take a sip. Despite this character being killed off in the last movie, we still see her a total of 14 times in this movie.
And that is it for all the rules for Halloween 2, 2009. The total number of drinks for this movie by our count comes to 150 sips, which is the equivalent of drinking exactly 5 standard 12-ounce cans. That number is based off of our 30 sip per can scale.
So yeah, it's worth noting that a lot of our rules had a high middle ground for drinks. Like, Scream, Cry, and Yells had 29.
Am I gonna die? Am I gonna die?
Pumpkins was 23. Michael Myers was said 20 times. You saw him 19 times. There were just a lot of rules that had a lot of drinks, I guess. And it seemed like it was pretty consistent and well balanced for the rules. So there was a lot of drinks, and it seems like it might be the highest average.
Yeah.
Consistently, I mean.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the higher averages for sure. At least with that bell curve, a lot of it was leaning towards like the 20 ground, which is quite a bit, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. And it makes for an interesting drinking game for sure.
Mm-hmm. But on to the movie itself, there were quite a few problems in comparison to the last one.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of complaints that I have for this movie. To start, the opening scenes were confusing because some of those events seemed like they actually happened, I think, but then other ones didn't because it was like a dream sequence or something.
Yeah.
Like we can assume that Laurie was rushed to the hospital and that she did visit Annie in Annie's room, but then it overlapped with the dream things that were happening, and like I just don't know what was real and what was actually happening or not happening. Like I don't know, it was confusing.
Yeah, like so the first 20 minutes is basically a dream, and it made the audience feel ripped off, even though most of it actually happened, presumably anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what I was watching it and I was like, so that whole first act was just a dream? Like I don't know, it was just confusing.
Yeah, we assumed that a good half of it happened, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best way to start the movie, let's just say that.
This time around, though, the kills were a little bit more gruesome. Stabbings were very bloody and horrific. Like, there was multiple stabs on each victim.
Yeah, it was almost comical, though.
Yeah.
Because he would stab them, like, 100 times, and it's like, okay, when is he going to get up off this person?
Yeah.
He just carried on and lingered on way too much, in my opinion.
Especially, like, even the scene with Annie's death. That bathroom's just covered in blood.
Oh, I know.
It's soaked.
Yeah. And Laurie, again, was obviously still no Jamie Lee Curtis. In this one, we see her trying to cope with the events of the first movie by almost lashing out and becoming a rebel. She was becoming an anarchist and, like, I don't know, she was getting into all kinds of trouble with drinking and, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And me personally, I hated it. I hate that she became some rebel and stuff. And it just felt cringy. And I don't know if that's the idea that she was lashing out or just the way that it was portrayed by the actress.
Yeah.
I think it was probably the latter, and I just didn't like the actress that much, probably.
Yeah. I guess it is kind of unique to see the comparison of that from H2O, even though H2O Laurie's like 20 years later, obviously.
Yeah.
It's neat to see kind of what she went through, like how traumatized she is, and going to therapy, finding new friends, which all happen to be dark, gloomy people, has a whole new like wardrobe basically, like her style changes completely.
Oh yeah.
Like,
she's a completely new person.
Yeah, she goes to wearing these metal t-shirts, like her bathroom's decorated like she's an anarchist, as you said.
Decorated.
Yeah, and in comparison to the first movie where she had like borderline preppy clothing, honestly, and Annie as a friend was just like, oh yeah, let's go out, have fun, have sex, and her new friends are like, let's listen to heavy metal.
Yeah. Well, and another thing to mention is that she had a Manson poster hanging in her room, and like she was basically a Manson family girl at that point, and like, oh, I hated that plot point so much that she became this Manson family girl. And
Yeah.
like, oh, it made me want to slap my head against the wall.
So Annie, on the other hand, I still liked Annie. Annie was still good. It's kind of she went through all the same events, and even at this time, Laurie still didn't know that she was Michael Myers' sister, actually. It wasn't really explained until she read the book, and then she lashed out and then left to go to a party or some shit like that.
Yeah. And speaking of that book, it brings up Loomis, which I thought he was dead. Why did he come back after the first one? He clearly died, but that's besides the point. I didn't even like him one bit in this movie. He was a narcissist. He just became a straight up dick and was, I don't know, he was just greedy, obviously, because of his book. And I don't know. He should have died in the first one and left it at that.
So the obvious main point that made people hate the movie a lot was all the scenes with Sherry Moon Zombie in them.
Yeah.
They were basically unbearable. There was a kid version of Michael talking to her. Talking, first of all, Michael. So I found that immediately awful, to say the least. Also, these scenes had, I feel like, nothing to do with the entire movie. Like, nothing was really wrapped up for the most part.
Well, it feels like those scenes were supposed to be the main point of the movie, the main plot line of the movie, but at the same time, they didn't really intertwine with each other and tell a coherent story. Like, all of those scenes, I didn't understand what was going on. It was just complete mess. Like, what was the point that they were trying to get across? Like, I don't know, it made no sense. And I guess you could say that Michael's mom was trying to get their family back together, and, you know, they would all be dead, but they're all at least happily living together in the end. But, like, I don't know, the way that they told that point was just all over the place.
Yeah, and if that's the case, where the fuck was Judith?
Well, yeah, exactly, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I didn't think about a whole lot for this movie.
And it just made it kind of feel like this whole Friday the 13th scenario where Jason loves his mom and his mom's telling him to kill people.
Yeah.
But his mom wasn't like that in the first movie. In fact, the dream sequences weren't even a fucking thing in the first movie, so it just kind of feels like out of the blue. So the whole ending kind of sucked for the most part. Just Laurie ending up in a mental institution, giving us a smile at the very end, wearing the Michael Myers mask. Like, what did it represent? And here's a popular fan theory, which I feel like if it was actually executed, it would have made the movie better. The fan theory goes that she is the new Michael Myers. She shot him in the head successfully and killed him in the first film, but she just hallucinates this all in her head and she does all the killings throughout the movie, which I feel like would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like if they were to elaborate on that and verify it in the movie, it would have made the movie better, and it would have explained a lot more things from her seeing psychotic episodes of her mom or whatever, killing people in the barn. But I feel like it's not the case. Even though it's a great theory, I feel like it can basically be disproven. The reason why it doesn't really hold any water, in my opinion, is just the deaths in the movie. Like, the 3 people in the strip club that Michael Myers kills, 2 of them are very, very big people that he overpowers. Same with when he's in the field and he gets beaten up by those 2 big country farmers, I think they are. And then he overpowers them and kills them, which I don't think Laurie has the capacity or body strength to do that. Speaking of which, Michael Myers flips a fucking car, which I don't think Laurie has the body strength to do. And even the witness, after that scene, says that she saw a large man carrying the girl after that guy got killed.
Exactly.
So that just basically makes the theory null and void. You can kind of make it so that everything's seen in Laurie's head in the other 2, but just that statement alone kind of disproves it.
Exactly, yeah. So I don't even think I need to ask, but I will anyways. What were your overall thoughts on this movie?
Not too great. The whole Deborah Meyer shit was so unnecessary, and she was just trying to get another paycheck from her husband, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
That part almost single-handedly ruined the movie, I think, in my opinion.
But it was the whole movie, so yeah.
Yeah. It was just too much of the movie. I think if they try to do just a typical Halloween 2 type of thing without the whole supernatural shit, I think it would have been at least tolerable.
Yeah, like he should have just stuck to the way that he shot the first one and maybe put a little bit of a twist, not completely flip it on its head and just create a pile of shit. But
yeah,
I don't know. I hated this movie and I'm never going to watch it again.
Yeah, it just didn't have enough continuity for the previous films, especially with the whole dream sequences and things like that. There just wasn't a lot to justify this being a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And not only is this a bad Halloween movie, but even if this was a standalone movie, it would be bad. So there's no way of looking at it to make it good.
He just tried to make it like too David Lynch almost, and I feel like it didn't sit well with a lot of people.
No. And finally, we come to the award ceremony, where we award one not-so-lucky nominee the Darwin Award. This award goes to the character who made a stupid decision that resulted in them getting killed, somebody else getting killed, or simply resulting in something bad happening that could have easily been avoided. This award can also be given to a character who is just plain dumb. Here are the nominees.
Today's first nominee is Dr. Loomis for confronting Michael Myers alone with no protection. Not to mention becoming super unlikable by selling his new book. He also becomes so unlikable to the point where he is getting heckled by Weird Al.
Second, we have Buddy, for not listening to Laurie and leaving when he should have heard her say that there was a psychotic killer outside, even though this shit is in a dream.
Next, there is Linda's dad for pulling an unloaded gun on Loomis. If you want to shoot him, shoot him. The only thing that this could have accomplished was suicide by cop.
Finally, we've got Lou, for going into melee range of Michael Myers while holding a gun, making it so that Myers can easily kill him.
And the winner is Loomis. It was hard to give out an award today, but we did decide to give it to Loomis. He should have walked into a gun with a knife fight. He didn't even walk into a knife with a knife fight. He walked into nothing with a knife fight and got killed.
And with all that being said, we hope you enjoyed our look into Halloween 2 by Rob Zombie. If you end up playing the game alongside the movie, or if you have any feedback or suggestions, let us know in the comments below. Also let us know in the comments what your take on the whole Deborah Myers situation was.
Make sure to find and follow us on Facebook, and like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode where we are going to be making a drinking game for Halloween. Not the original, not the Rob Zombie, but the third one named Halloween, made in 2018. If you want to check out our most recent video on Rob Zombie's Halloween, click on the box on the top right. Or if you want to see a playlist of all the drinking games and movies we review, click on the box below it. Thanks for tuning in, and this is us saying, cheers to fears.